Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and welcome to my review for The Last Guardian. Now, I beat this game over a week ago, and usually I try to get my reviews out as quick as possible, but considering that PlayStation delivered my review code late, I figured I'd really take the time to digest my experience with this game because I was really conflicted on it. I see a lot of people not enjoying this game, I saw a lot of people loving this game, and I left this game very disappointed easily, the most disappointed I felt with a game in 2016. Now, if you love this game, I completely understand why, and I will not argue your opinion at all because there is a lot of soul here, especially when looking at Trico. My heart melts. For me, it just ended up being that large disappointment, and I wasn't relatively hyped for the game either. I know some will say, well, what about No Man's Sky? What about The Division? Matt, are you kidding me? Well, those are your most disappointing games, not mine. I didn't really have high hype for those games either. This is just one that I saw a lot of potential in, and I felt it didn't really live up to it. But this game has massive amounts of things to love about it that I think a lot of gamers will appreciate. For me, though, I just felt that the cons heavily outweighed it with tedious problems that are obvious, especially in a game that was developed for 10 years. But I do want to start off with what I liked about the game because the game does deserve praise in certain areas, and I'm not trying to go soft on it because it was in development for a while and people love it, but really there are some things to marvel at in this game, such as Trico, which is one of the most lifelike creatures I've ever seen in a video game. It's tremendous to watch Trico explore the environment, the way he tucks his ears behind as he crawls through an alley, or when he looks around and he starts making all these noises, just the way he interacts. It reminds me of my own dog almost, where I found myself consistently pausing this game to go out to my living room to pick up my dog and give him hugs and kisses, let him know I love them, because that's how lifelike Trico was. It made me feel like passionate for my own pet, where I was like, I need to go talk to my own Trico. Seriously, the way he walks around, just the mannerisms overall, they really nailed that lifelike creature, and that is not a shortcoming at all because it's key to the success of this game for those who do enjoy it. Also, what's key to the success of this game that people love is its beautiful level design. One of the things that's important in games like this, which are largely based off of puzzles, is that the architecture meshes with the level design. And I think that's really important, where it's not just like, hey, how the hell did this get here? Did someone actually live here, or did some guy decide to make a labyrinth in this place just for the sake of the fact that it's a video game? No, the level design here makes sense, and when you're climbing up walls, it all blends in perfectly fine, and it doesn't look out of place. Another example I could draw as a comparison would be something along the lines of Uncharted. So now you know what I'm getting at, where the platforming in this game is great, and the way the levels are designed is even better. So yes, navigating these puzzles is always fun. Also, the bond between the little boy and Trico, very organic stuff. It happens naturally. There's really very little cutscenes in this game. When they do happen, it's a real treat. But what happens is through the natural gameplay, that's where the bonds are formed as Trico and the little boy struggle to get through these areas together. And there's a lot of interesting set pieces that happen along the way that really bring them closer. So yes, this is all organic. It's not like they have these set story moments. It just feels natural as time goes on, that there's a trust built between these two. And once again, kudos to the developer for getting that job done, because it's not something that's easily forged. But Matty, you just spent 3 minutes praising a game that you're claiming to be the most disappointing game of 2016. Well, I'd be closed-minded to totally ignore all the good things about this game if I just wanted to prove my point on why it's disappointing, because there is a lot to love about this game, and also I do acknowledge the fact that a lot of people love this game, and I can see exactly why. For me though, as I mentioned earlier, I feel the cons do outweigh those pros. So what exactly were those cons for me? Well, it just starts off with asking the question, where did the 10 years of game development go for this game? I think the focus was mainly on Trico's AI, which I'll get into in a little bit. But the reason I say this is because it seems like problems that are dragging down this game are problems that are apparent within that first hour. Most of the complaints I'm going to make, I could see within the first hour of this game. It's not like something along the lines of an open world game where a lot of dynamic things are happening, where some game-breaking bugs might happen under certain circumstances that a game tester might not normally find. No, these are the development issues that you see right off the bat. Stuff like, for example, a terrible camera. This is something that consistently gets in the way. Now, normally I play a lot of action games, I can deal with a bad camera from time to time, but when it's constantly in the way, constantly getting hooked on things, and it's tied to momentum, as in the longer you hold it, the faster the camera turns, so it's hard to really find what you're looking for unless you mess with the sensitivity and all that stuff. It is just a terrible camera. Constantly getting in the way, constantly blocking my vision as I'm trying to navigate these levels, also just blocking me off from seeing stuff I want to platform to. This is issues that happened when I was playing on the PS2. So it just fascinates me that something along this lines has been in development for 10 years and they didn't catch this problem, and if they did, they completely ignored it, which I'm imagining they did, which I think drags down the experience a lot. Yes, does a camera take away from a game that's trying to establish emotion from a little boy and Trico? Sure, that's up to the gamer itself. That's why we all have different opinions. For me, it was just constantly infuriating me. But what was more infuriating was really Trico's AI. It was remarkably inconsistent. I really found myself getting physically angry over it, which I don't do with games. I have a lot of patience for a New Yorker especially. And here's the thing is that a lot of people have been saying, well, Matty, you have to realize that Trico's AI was designed that way, that the studio wanted to develop Trico's AI, so sometimes when you fired a command his way, he would listen. Sometimes he wouldn't, like your actual animal. And if that's the case, this is the damn most immersive game ever.
Hi, buddy. Duke, come here, buddy. Come here. Come here.
But let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that was intentional at all, because it's not like over the course of the game, Trico listens to you more and more because he trusts you more. No, he just doesn't listen sometimes, and it's frustrating. I know that they wanted you to not take direct control of him, to have that natural relationship, as he is a living, breathing creature on his own, and I get why they did that. I'm not saying that the solution was to go Oddworld Munch's Odyssey, for example, where you could play as Munch or Abe and switch between them, as they both have their own sets of strengths and weaknesses to help solve puzzles throughout the levels. I'm not suggesting that, but what I'm saying is just that they should have made it so that when you command him to do one thing, he does it, because he just doesn't listen, where sometimes you'll tell him to jump onto something, he won't listen, or he'll jump onto the wrong thing. It's just that maybe they should have had some UI, something to help assist with the commands in this game, because he doesn't listen. And I just feel like it's an excuse for the bad AI to say that, hey, we wanted it to be this way because, well, it kind of fits the narrative, doesn't it? It makes sense. And I'm not trying to be that skeptical gamer. You guys know me on this channel, hopefully by now, that I like to tackle things with optimism, but with the way of how inconsistent things are with Trico's AI, I have to be completely honest, ladies and gentlemen, I just don't feel like that's the case, that they wanted this to happen, especially knowing that it would be, as a gamer, infuriating, which I know these guys are game developers, they've been playing games all their life. It's quite annoying when a creature you can't control, or an AI in general just that you can't control, that you need to command things to do, doesn't listen. They know that. I don't think that it would build the experience. I think it hindered it. But for some people, they found an appreciation for that. I mean, I don't necessarily understand how, but a lot of people thought that, hey, this is cool because I'm trying to work with him and get him to listen to me, which I sort of understand. But for me, it just doesn't really work. Also, we can't forget the horrific frame drops in this game. Anytime you exit the ruins and you're out in essentially the open areas, the game drops to a barely 20 FPS. I mean, look at this scene here towards the end of the game when I'm just rotating around the room. Does this look like a game from 2016 to you? Not graphically, but that frame rate. Are you kidding me? That is absolutely unacceptable, especially for a game like this, which has been in development for so long. The other and final problem I really had was the repetitive puzzle design that was placed in this game, where a lot of times you're going to find yourself just crawling through a level and you're going to be feeding Trico a barrel, or you're going to be destroying a glass eye that scares Trico in order to help progress in the level. Empty soldiers chasing you around the room, and if they pick you up, you have to mash buttons in order to get them to drop you, and it's just very weird, finicky, and it happens all the time. And now this mechanic was designed to help create a reliance on Trico so that he would fight off the enemies for you and you would rely on him, just like he would rely on you. And it makes sense in practice, but like I said, much like the puzzle mechanics, it's overused to redundancy, where you're constantly circling a room, getting picked up, struggling to get out, and until you eventually finally escape that puzzle sequence. It's really based around those three things in this game. Now, don't get me wrong, the puzzles in this game are great, and as I mentioned, the level design is beautiful in this game. I really did have a great time exploring it. I'm just saying that the puzzles really revolved around the same set mechanics, where Trico would hurt himself, or he'd be tired and you'd have to feed him, or he'd be scared, you'd have to destroy an eye, or he'd be enamored with some scent and you'd have to find a way to get rid of said scent, and things would go wrong from there, and it would be almost like an escape the room sort of game. So what I'm saying is that it always revolved around the same set of puzzle design, which ultimately made the game predictable for me. For some people, they didn't mind, which I totally get. Once again, what I'm trying to emphasize here is that this game is really disappointing for me, but if you don't feel that way, I respect that. And for me, what I'm saying is I just don't understand how 10 years went into this game and it walked away with some issues that were easy to fix. Maybe the repetitive puzzle design would have been something easy to look by if I wasn't constantly infuriated with Trico's AI, where I'd say, hey, do this, and he wouldn't do it, and I'd think, okay, well, maybe I'm doing the puzzle wrong, I have it solved in my head, but the game itself wouldn't let me progress. And that's really what held things back, is when I had things solved and I started to doubt myself because Trico wasn't listening. But in the end, it was just the AI breaking. It seems circumstantial, where some people things are working out just bang, bang, bang really well, where obviously the game was progressing smoothly, and I could see why the experience was way better for them compared to me, where I'd have the puzzle solved. I say, okay, I'm going to climb up there. I'm going to use Trico's head. He's going to lift me higher. Okay, awesome. And then he wouldn't do that. And I think, maybe there's a different way around this. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. But it turns out I wasn't. It's just the game wasn't listening to me. So hopefully by now you understand why I was just so upset with this game at the end, especially when it has a beautiful ending. Really, it is just a great emotional game in that regard, but it's just dragged down by some terrible issues that really plague the experience right from the get-go. And I know some people can look bad at camera. I'm one of those gamers who does look by a bad camera, as someone who likes those action games like, for example, Devil May Cry. But for this one, man, it's just constantly in the way, and the AI, its inconsistency makes it for an infuriating puzzle-solving experience. And the repetitive puzzle design, I think a lot of gamers could look by, but for me, with the combined other issues I mentioned, it just made it all the more frustrating, where it didn't feel like my progress was being rewarded. So I know I'm in the unpopular opinion degree here. I looked at IGN's review, and they didn't seem too fond on the game, and actually shared a lot of issues that I did, and well, their review didn't go over that well. So I don't expect mine to as well, even though I've tried to establish I get why you guys would like this game, but still, I have to be honest and just put my opinion out there, because I hope that most of you will respect my opinion like I respect yours. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, found it informative. If you want to engage in any discussion about this title in the comments down below, you know I am more than willing to, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on the title. I'd love to hear if you guys shared some of the similar issues as me, or if maybe you were able to look past it in a unique way. But nonetheless, really looking forward to it. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. The links are, as always, in the description down below. Check out TriggerBomb.com, the place by Bethesda fans for Bethesda fans. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.